backup, make sure you have a backup configured. It's only a one-time configuration. It will run, for instance, every night, but then you are sure that whatever happens, you always have that backup standing by. Let's take a look on how to do that configuration. So in the backup module, we will dive into the UI, and in that UI, we will find the configuration, which basically consists out of defining the location of your backup, the policy, the schedule, the content of your backup, and then we still have some buttons I want to discuss and talk to you what will be the outcome, which technology is being used. So first of all, the UI, again, we are in System Center, and now we are focusing on that backup page where you can see a summary in the tiles at the top, and you have 3 pages basically defining the configuration divided in the general, schedule, and content page. Let's take a look at our system on dcpdma.skyline.be. We go once more to our System Center, and within the System Center we are going to the backup page. So we can see it's local and network, so on 2 locations. 3 backups will be kept daily, and it's a custom type that we defined. So we will go through those settings step by step. As I mentioned, this is very important to make sure you configure this. It's only a one-time configuration. You define where we can store that information or that backup on a nightly timing, for instance, or schedule. And then you can be sure that you always have that backup available if something would happen. Not only if, for instance, a server would crash or a VM would suddenly disappear, but also if, for instance, somebody would by mistake delete something and you want to get it back from a backup. So it's not only disaster recovery, but also human error or maybe a database going corrupt or something like that. So first of all, we will define the location. That's on the general tab page. We do have 2 possible locations we can define: a local path somewhere on the DataMiner agents themselves, or somewhere on a network path. If you go for a local path, the default location will be the C drive, C Skyline DataMiner backup. Of course, if you're going to have a disk error, for instance, and your hard disk is corrupt and gone, then your backup will also be gone. So you might want to have that custom location and maybe put it on a separate physical disk to make sure if something happens with the disk that it's not also corrupting my backup. You can define that local path, and actually for every node or DataMiner agent in your system, you can define a custom one. Let's take a look at our configuration. So we have local path enabled, so it is going to store it locally, and it is actually going to store it in the default C Skyline DataMiner. So maybe you want to change that to the D drive if you have a D drive available, and if it's a separate physical disk, of course. Okay, next to that, it might be recommended, of course, to put it somewhere on another server. If for one or another reason your VM would suddenly disappear by making a mistake somewhere on VM level, then you would still have it somewhere on a network share, for instance. So it's always recommended to enable that store backup on a network path. And you have 2 options there. You can say, like, for all my DataMiner agents in my system, go to the same location. So you have one network path. You basically define the location with the UNC path, like // the name of the server, the name of the share, etc. You can also specify the username and password to connect to that share if it would not allow anonymous access. There is also a possibility to define for every individual DataMiner agent a separate network path. 2 use cases. I could have 2 regions which are far away from each other, and then I don't want to transfer that rather big backup all across the ocean, for instance, to that network share, but I want to have a network share which is close by. So maybe I have one in Europe and I have one in the US to just gather the backups of my 5 servers I have in Europe and my 5 servers I have in the US. So I basically have 2 shares. But if you don't have a network share, you could also use this to actually store the backup from the first DataMiner agent onto the second, and you create a share on that second DataMiner agent to capture that backup of the first agent. And the second agent stores it on the third agent, and the third agent stores it back on the first agent. So whenever one machine is suddenly gone and wasted, then I can still go to the next machine to fetch that backup and restore that onto a new machine. So you can also leverage that individual location to actually go from one agent to another to store that backup. There is also a location for the indexing engine. If you have an Elastic indexing engine enabled in your DataMiner system, you can define the location there. That works a little bit different. You have some more information on that in the help. It basically works with a Windows task scheduler where you can do some configuration there. But here you can also define that location, because within a cluster of Elastic nodes, there's only one backup that is going to be generated there. Now, the policy is also very important, especially in combination with the schedule, which we will immediately take a look at. The policy defines how many backups I store on that location that I defined. And in combination with the timing, it basically defines how far I can go back in time. If I want to protect myself against disaster recovery or a disaster from my virtual machine suddenly completely being gone, then I have enough with one backup, you could say. But if you want to protect yourself against somebody deleting a whole setup or a whole configuration by mistake, well, if you only discover that on a Monday morning, for instance, while the person did that on a Friday evening, you want to be able to go back not to yesterday, but also to a couple of days back in time. So think about that policy in combination with the schedule as well. I will also show you at the end of this module the recycle bin we actually have in DataMiner. So you don't necessarily have to rely on the backup if, for instance, somebody deletes a view by mistake. I'll come back to that. So the policy, here it is configured on 5. Let's take a look back to our system. So we had the local part. Yeah, the network part is apparently also enabled. Forgot to mention that. So if we open that up, we can see it's also being stored somewhere on a network attached storage here, and going to nicely put that in there as well. We can go back 3 backups. So we will find 3 backups on that location. And then we will combine, of course, with the schedule. So let's take a look at that schedule. So typically, most commonly, we will go for this option where we say daily at once a day at a specific time. That's the most common thing that I would probably do. You could also go for manually, which is not recommended, of course. Typically daily at a specific time and every day, I would say. You could also go for weekly and say that every night at 2 o'clock I generate the backup, but maybe not during the weekend. That's the days of the week you can specify. Monthly, I would say that's not immediately recommended to only do it every 14 days. That would be possible on the 1st and the 15th of the month, for instance. About that timing, I would recommend not to do it at midnight, because at midnight there is a sync in the DataMiner system to make sure that everything is still correctly in sync. So I would rather suggest to do it at maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the night. That's a typical thing. Now, the last page, let's maybe first go back to our user interface. So our schedule is defined daily, which is perfect. Once a day, apparently at 7 o'clock in the morning. So early in the morning, it does that, and it does that every single day of the week. Saturday, Sunday as well. It is generating that backup at 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay, the contents. So you have 2 possible options. You go for a predefined backup, which is probably the recommended one, or you can go for a custom one. And then you have a whole series of options to define what needs to be included in that backup. To rest assured that you have everything, I would just say like go for the full backup. Just use the predefined one, full backup, everything will be in there. You can just restore that on a new server and you will have everything exactly as it was before. Of course, your database package, or your package includes the database, I should say. The database could be quite big. Maybe you say like, okay, I don't really worry about the history data, because that's typically what we are talking about, like trend information, alarm history. That's a large amount of information. You could say like, yeah, I just want a small package where I only have my configuration, all my Visio files, my elements, my alarm templates, everything that I configured, my automation scripts and things like that. I want to have a solid backup of that, not with the history. So you can actually go for a full backup without the database. That could make it a very small package compared to the one with the database, because the database could grow easily into gigabytes or even 100 gigabytes of data. The configuration backup is basically a slimmed down version of the full backup. You could say that it removes a little bit of the files or logging of these kind of things, makes it a little bit smaller. But yeah, I would say the safest option is the full backup. Visual backup is more only the visuals and Visio files and these kind of things. If you want to see what is left out or not, you can actually, if you go here to the contents, let's check that out. Apparently it's on custom for our system here. If I go for predefined, you can open and close the details here of the custom backup. If you open up the details, if you go for full backup, you see that every checkbox is enabled. If you go for without database, you will see that the backup of the database is not included. The configuration backup has the log files and DataMiner files not included, etc. So you can actually verify what is in there. So full backup is basically everything. You can also customize it yourself here by enabling the checkboxes of all the different things that will be included in there. I would not worry too much about that. If you have enough space, just go for the full backup. That's the safest option. Yeah, for the option you select, you have some potentially some details on the right hand side as well. Okay, so once we configured that, make sure you save. You can also discard, of course. And if you save that, you can just configure it once every night, a backup on that location, keep 3 backups, and you save it, and you can just make sure that you always have that backup. If something would happen and the backup cannot be generated, you would have something like a information event, a notice alarm, I should say. And we actually had here one, and that is the backup error. The backup process failed, apparently some unspecified error we have here, so we should take a look at that. But also, for instance, if the network share would not be available, it would indicate like that the network share was not available to store your backup on there. So you will be notified if it would fail. If it doesn't fail, you don't see anything, you are safe. You can actually track the in the information events if a backup is being generated, if it starts. So with the information events, you will see starting backup, dumping the database information, composing all the information that needs to be added into that specific backup file. Okay, if you want to manually execute the backup, you can do so by clicking on the execute backup. If you have multiple DataMiner agents in your system, you will see all the agents here in your DataMiner system, and you can choose on which one you want to initiate the backup now, one or all of them, and just start the backup. So if you want to, for instance, move a DataMiner agent to a new piece of hardware, you can actually take a backup, click on execute backup, select the DataMiner agent, start the backup. It will take some time to generate the backup. Once it's done, you take it, you bring it to the new server, and you execute it there to restore that. How is that being executed? How is that being restored? Well, what's actually behind the scenes, the technology? So first of all, I want to mention that the scheduling technology, like every night at 2 o'clock, we generate a backup is being triggered by the scheduling of the Windows operating system. So you will find a scheduled task in there. That's the task scheduler you see here. That is actually here the Skyline DataMiner backup that is running every night, for instance. What will be generated? Let's just focus on from Windows 2008 onwards, because that's kind of outdated already, the 2008 server. That is basically generating a .dm backup package. The .dm backup package, so we have seen already various packages that start with .dm. DM protocol, DM export or import. So here we have the .dm backup. That's a backup of a DataMiner. DataMiner, that's the DM. And actually on a DataMiner agent, you can just double click on there and it opens up, because DataMiner recognizes these packages. So just double click it and it will show you the possibility to restore that. And I'll show you that in a demo now, because I do have here. So, well, first of all, the configuration. So we've been through that, and at the bottom, of course, we have the possibility to save it and to execute a manual backup there. Or let's discard my unsafe changes, and then I can execute my backup. I only have one agent. I can start the backup, but I'm not going to do that now. You would be able to see that in the information events. But let's take a look at our DataMiner agent. So I do have the remote desktop here on our DataMiner agent. First of all, on every DataMiner agent, you do have in the system tray in Skyline bird icon there, and it shows me in the tooltip the DataMiner status is started. So this DataMiner agent is started. And actually I can right click on there and I can launch DataMiner Cube or some tools. I can also go to the upgrade window, start the DataMiner, stop it, restart, some options for this little tool. But in the maintenance, I can actually trigger a backup here as well. I can immediately start the backup from here as well. And I can do a restore. So I can just go to restore and I can select the package that I have and I can then restore it. And if I open up my File Explorer, let's take a look. I do know that I have here a directory, Skyline DataMiner backups. So you actually see we have some two older packages here, .dm backup, and it's nicely recognized. So you can just double click on that and it opens up already that restore window here. So you can easily start restoring that and it will restore the full package. If you would like to restore a specific file, if that would be required, well, actually, this is a zip file, so you can actually open it up and you will actually be able to open up again another zip file in there to see actually the different files, like an element XML, for instance, if you would be looking for one specific element in there, or another configuration file in there. That's the backup, a full backup of your DataMiner system taken every night. But I did mention that if you would not have a backup, or if you would have, for instance, somebody deleting a view by mistake. Let's take, for instance, over here, somebody by mistake deletes Europe with all the different sites underneath there, or maybe a specific alarm template has been deleted. And you say like, oh my God, I don't have a backup. Don't worry, we do also have a recycle bin on a DataMiner agent. How does that actually work? Yeah, the update is opened here with, for instance, in the elements, you would find for your different elements, the configuration and things like that. But let's go back to the C drive. If I go to the Skyline DataMiner directory, so everything of a DataMiner agent is stored into this folder, the Skyline DataMiner directory. If I go in there, you will find, for instance, the elements that are on your DataMiner system, like the one that I just had with the XML configuration in there. But if I go, you will have some generic XML configuration files, like where's the database configuration, things like that. But what I want to show you is the recycle bin we have here. So whenever you do something in a DataMiner system that is changing the configuration of the system, we will also try to make sure that we first take a backup of that file that you are going to change, the configuration file that you're going to change. First take a backup in that recycle bin, and only then we will apply your change in there. So if I go into the recycle bin, you will find some series of informations of continuously changes that are happening, a lot of baseline changes here. This folder is also limited. It's limited in size or number of items. We will see that in the advanced configuration module. But let's maybe look for changes that I did with my name. I created, for instance, some training BERT elements. I actually created some trend templates as well. So the element was initially created here as the training BERT. Then I edited the elements with _1 and I actually did an import with an element 2. If for one or another reason I maybe deleted my elements and I want to get that configuration back, well, if you open up such a zip package, so if I double click on there, you will always find in there the location where that file was originally. So Skyline DataMiner, elements, training BERT, and the element XML. So if I want to restore this file, I would just basically need to open up a new file explorer here, navigate to the same location, see Skyline DataMiner, elements, and my training BERT1. We have that XML there, and we have here the original one from I don't know from when it was, from a few days ago, from the 14th of January. So that's already 14 days ago. So I can go in there, I can take that XML and I can just copy it over there. But watch out, if you do that, I'm not going to do that. You need to make sure that your DataMiner agent is stopped. So first you would need to go here and say stop the DataMiner agent, making sure that DataMiner doesn't change anything anymore to the XML files. Once it's shut down, you can just copy back the file there, overwrite it, and just start DataMiner again. That's basically how you can restore something from the recycle bin. Also interesting is that next to the elements, the directory where the XML file is, you will also find something called system cache. And in the system cache, you will actually find a cause. So you can see a timestamp on there as well. And in the cause, we can actually see that an add element has been done by Bert Vandenbergen. So I did this, and actually some more details of what the changes were that I did. So you do have the possibility in that recycle bin to see all the changes there. It was added to a view as well and things like that. So all the changes are in here for a limited window, of course, because we keep some maintenance on those changes. So if you would ever have something that is by mistake deleted and you don't have that backup, you can also go back to that recycle bin to hopefully find back your configuration that you created before. So keep that recycle bin in mind. But what is the most important of this module, that is make sure you configure the backup. It's only a small effort to configure it, and it runs automatically every night, for instance, but it helps you out whenever something would happen, the unexpected would happen, then you can rely back onto that backup file. I hope you will do that. See you in the next one.